Okay. The Columbine shooters used bombs, sawed-off shotguns, handguns, and small machine guns that they snuck into the school by concealing them in their trench coats. The aftermath of that day will live in infamy in the hearts and minds of Americans for the rest of our lives and will be a piece of unsavory history for our country. On a much lighter note, Ben Franklin once said, "The school looks very good. The uniforms are a good thing. It will be easy for my wife. She won't have to fight about clothes," when he was asked about an institution that she was going to due to her age. I've gone to Catholic school my entire life up until this point in time. I went from hating the idea of uniforms to fully understanding all that they can do for a school and a student body. Uniforms are a hot debate these days, and I'm a strong believer in implementing them into pre-college level institutions. Today, I hope to persuade you all that uniforms are in fact beneficial. Uniforms provide safety, freedom from distractions, and an overall boost in morale and the feeling of camaraderie amongst peers. During President Bill Clinton's State of the Union address, he addressed implementing uniforms, saying, "If it means that teenagers will stop killing each other over designer jackets, then our public schools should be required to wear uniforms." Uniforms provide safety in schools and to the outside community by allowing fellow classmates and citizens alike to easily recognize members of a specific institution and school rather than a gang. Uniforms have been a positive thing in Long Beach, California. The feedback is that the schools have to call the police less because there's less conflict among students. Uniforms tend to equalize the playing field, and students concentrate more on education, not who's wearing $100 shoes or gang tires, said the police chief of Long Beach, California, regarding the case study that was conducted there in 1990s. The study was finalized and the numbers are astounding. Crime rate, suspensions, and sex offenses were reduced by over 90%. Vandalism was reduced by 69%. The study was so prominent that it was also featured in an issue of Psychology Today in 1999. Intruders in a school can be easily identified because they will be the only ones in the clothing that is not uniform policy. In an urban populace, gang affiliates within the school are not able to identify with their gang through colors or clothing that means a lesser chance of rival fighting or violence in the school or on the playground. Critics of the idea of uniforms provide safety, and they say that it doesn't provide a level of chaos, and uniforms allow for students to feel safe in their schools by highly reducing the threat of violence. They also provide freedom from distractions in the classroom and throughout the school. Uniforms eliminate the need for flashy or explicit clothing, and this is helpful for less financially stable families who, without uniforms, would have to consistently keep up with their child's clothing needs dependent on fashion styles and trends. Also, students of these less fortunate families are not harassed for the clothing they wear because all students are dressed the same. Playing devil's advocate for a moment, school uniforms do trump freedom of expression, which ultimately leads to an even more elaborate debate on whether constitutional rights are being infringed on. Critics state that uniforms force young and old students to conform to social norms, rather than showing their individuality. I personally believe that students will adapt to change, and therefore they will find more ways to be unique no matter what, whether it is through homemade bracelets, new shoes, or a stylish haircut, etc. Children learn better when they do not have to worry about what to wear when they wake up in the morning, because it is already predetermined. More time can be spent studying and meeting homework deadlines. One way students are not free, however, is in their communities. When students wear their uniforms out in public during lunch breaks, off school property, or after school, they are less likely to act out in an inappropriate manner, because they are easily identifiable to the general public. In the classroom, students have no need to compare with one another new trends or other off-topic issues that draw attention away from the teacher. Those conversations are not meant for the learning environment. Although uniforms limit a student's freedom of expression, they also limit the distractions that a student sees during their school day. Uniforms also act as a great source of pride and are key in creating camaraderie for the student body. Ask yourself the question, why do sports teams wear uniforms? Why does the military wear uniforms? They do so to create a feeling of pride, a feeling of camaraderie amongst the group, so there is no odd man out, and every member is easily identifiable, as noted before. In sports and the military, uniforms also allow easy identification. When everyone is dressed equally, there is a sense of pride, again, amongst the individuals in a positive way, because they know that they represent something larger, not just themselves. Uniforms allow kids from all backgrounds to have their playing field. Professor Margaret Harris from the University of Oxford said on a study she conducted, uniforms are often contributed to a feeling of pride, which the students do not want to compromise by misbehaving outside of the school gates. In relation to a study they conducted in the UK, another study said that they found the same thing. On the contrary, sometimes certain matters such as religious beliefs can interfere with the idea of uniforms simply due to the fact that they are clearly defining what is and isn't allowed. Clothing for other cultures can rely heavily on having the body covered fully, and with strict uniform policies, there's definitely some friction on that issue. Uniforms provide safety, freedom from distractions, and an overall boost in morale, and the feeling of camaraderie amongst peers. Although individuality and expressionism are moderately faded out by these, as mentioned previously, students will always find a way to be unique and adapt to that change. Uniforms correlate to more discipline, and discipline correlates to more focus. And when children focus in school, they receive high marks on tests and papers that equates to seemingly bright futures. So the next time you are asked about your thoughts on implementing uniforms in pre-college level schools, I hope you all will remember that you remember the positives truly outweigh the negatives in this controversial debate that will last for years to come. Thank you. Okay, thanks guys. And now, Marilyn, need a question from you.
Do you believe that...
You don't have to look at the camera, you can look at me.
I don't know what to do.
Alright, Chris, just throw one out there.
Alright. So why only pre-college institutes? Why should they, if you're saying all these great things about uniforms, why shouldn't a college have uniforms?
Wonderful question.
And if you're gonna make kids under the age of 18 follow the law, then, shouldn't adults have to follow the same?
No, because they're adults.
Well, also you have to look at the fact that in the workplace, the normal workplace, there's a certain dress code. And
Yeah,
has to be abided by that.
I wasn't asking you, I was asking her.
Yeah,
I was just making a statement.
I feel like the dress code, Chris, would be, in like the workplace, once you're over 18, it's up to you, but you have to abide by some sort of backbone. Whereas when you're 1 to 17 and your parents have control of everything in your life, you should just go with the uniforms.
Okay.
Ryan. You got this.
Okay.
How do you
When were
suppose?
uniforms first started to be used, and how did they originally?
It's a great question, Ryan. I can't answer that for you specifically, but going back to ancient times, I believe during the witch hunts, that uniforms were put into place. Damon, how about you?
Doesn't it take individuality out of the kids, though, as they're growing up?
It absolutely does, and that is a great argument against uniforms.
Not really a question, it's an argument.
Yeah, it's an argument. There you go. It works for me. That was the other. When I was playing devil's advocate, that's what I thought too. So I can't say for certain why, but what happens when they grow up and don't have any individuality. But I just feel like the pros outweigh the cons. Good stuff. Marilyn?
Do you want to
Fourth in
send
line.
your kids, do you hope that in the future the uniforms are universal, like they are everywhere?
Absolutely not. No.
You don't want that?
I want uniforms to be universal in pre-college level courses, not anywhere after that.
No, I
Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I should have clarified that.
Thank you. Nice. Now we gotta get Turner's.